All right, we are continuing our photocubism project, and I ended with a sketch, and this was some of the stuff that came to my mind. We're following an Earth Day theme. I'm remembering that I want to avoid horizontal and verticals when I'm going to place my photos. And the last step, and I chose like the money tree is going to be up here, it's my bamboo, my succulents, my felt flowers, a bench. I had ideas for how these would all work together. But what's unique about this project is that the format is not a default rectangle like we are used to. Instead, it's going to be a free-floating format of these different photos layered up on top of each other. Whoops. And so what can help you kind of remember that is outlining some of these rectangle placements. Even though you drew them very quickly, you'll see that just the shape of the format has an energy to it that's visually engaging. You hope anyway that it can be visually engaging. And it is that way because you avoid horizontals and verticals. And it suggests that a lot of complexity. Now just that shape helps you realize as a viewer that you're looking at a fragmented view of the world. It's not a clear document of how things really are. Instead, it's a subjective view. So the last step in my sketch, which will help me later, is to outline the edges like that. Okay, now with that done, I'm going to save it, and I'm going to save my sketch as a JPEG because I'm going to actually need to use it later. And if I did this in a sketchbook, I would take a photo of it. And so in order to put it up to PhotoBucket, this will be the first thing I submit. I save it as a JPEG, and I put it onto my desktop. Okay, now, informed by this, knowing that I'm going to shoot these different things, a money tree, the bamboo, the succulent, the bench, the felted flowers, and I can play with their different arrangements. I don't even need to shoot them all in the same place, but I know I'm going to put them together. And I want to shoot them from different angles, and I want to shoot them with different lighting, but I do want to make sure that I do a lot of consecutive shots so that they trail together instead of all being completely individual. And you'll see why. I also want to make sure before I shoot that I set my camera onto its lowest quality setting. And that's so that my exposures are not really huge exposures with lots and lots of pixels. Instead, they'll be pretty manageable exposures. Because if I'm going to composite 50 to 100 photos together, I can't have them all be full resolution, or my computer will just revolt and shut down on me. So now, informed by this sketch, I am going to take my exposures, and I did that last night. Let's see, where are they? Cubist exposures, here we go. And I got 104 of them, which is a lot. It's probably the upper ceiling that you'll want to get. And I'm actually going to save that whole folder over to my desktop. Now, because I shot at a low quality, which is still probably about 6 megapixels, that whole folder of 104 is only 83 megabytes. 105 items, I stand corrected. Now, some cameras nowadays are good enough that one photo is almost 80 megabytes on its own. But I'm going to teach you something, because what if you took all these photos, but each one was full size? So right now, these photos are about 1.4 megabytes each, which is about right. It's about what we want. And how that translates into inches is, actually, that's a little bit bigger than we need. Basically 8 by 10 by 300 pixels per inch, which is around 10 megapixels still. I don't need them that big because my finished project is going to look more like this. And the largest I can print this is around 11 by 14 inches. So each individual photo does not need to be 8 inches on its own at print resolution. So instead I'm going to shrink these all to be about half of a megabyte. So how do I do that? This is where we learn how to write actions. So I'm going to take my first photo and I'm going to open it with Photoshop. Okay. I'll close my sketch for the time being. And now what I'm going to do is record everything I do. So first, what do I think I should do? I want to hide this for the time being. Okay, so what I think I need to do in order to shrink it is go to image size, right? And change it from being 300 resolution to being more like 100 resolution. And that will move it from what it was down to something like this. So actually, each photo, I don't know why it said my whole folder was only 80 something megabytes, because each photo is almost 30 megabytes. And I want to take it down so that each one is less than 5. In order to do that, I have to have resample checked. So I'm changing it from a whole lot of inches to something a lot smaller. So I go to image size, I see its original, and then I'm just going to change that to be 100 pixels per inch instead of 300 pixels per inch. Whatever makes it so it's less than 5 megapixels. Okay, now I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do that while I am recording an action. So this is how you create an action. You open up your actions. You're going to scroll up to the default actions folder. This is where we create all our custom temporary actions, because I don't want you to mess with any of mine. So we open up the default actions folder, or we at least select it. And then just like we would make a new layer, we click on this new action button. And we name it with our name, and we say temp, because it's temporary, which lets us know that we can erase it later. And then I hit record. And just like a VHS tape, as soon as you hit record, a little red light comes on, and anything I do will now be recorded. So now I'm going to go up to image size, and I'm going to change the resolution from 300 to 100. I'm doing that instead of changing the width or the height, because some of my photos are portrait format, some are landscape format. The resolution will always be the same. So I'm going to do this and play this action across all of my photos. So I say, okay, that shrunk my image. Now I need to save that. So I say File, Save. And what quality? Sure, I'll leave it at quality of 12, which will make it then under a megabyte. And then I need to close it. File, Close. I need to record all 3 of those steps in the action so that this action can play over and over and over again. And then I say stop. Okay? So now I've made this very simple little action where I've already opened up a photo, but it's going to change its image size, it's going to save it with the smaller image size, and then it's going to close it. I would never play this action across the photos from my memory card. That's why I first copied all my photos to my desktop, because I'm replacing high quality photos with lower quality photos. And that's not generally what we want to do. So at least in your memory card, you'll have all of your higher quality photos. Now, even if you set your camera to shoot at a low quality, it's still a good idea to shrink them like this so that they'll process a lot faster, especially if you have 50 to 100 photos. Okay, now I need to test this action. So I've recorded on my VHS tape. Now I need to see how that recorded set of commands works. So what I do is I go back to my desktop, to my folder, and I'm going to open up my second photo in Photoshop. And then I'm simply going to play that action. I select it. So remember, it's like a VHS tape. I don't want to play the things inside, even though if I wanted to, I could see all the settings I chose in there, but that's like playing with the magnetic tape. Instead, I just select the action and I play it. And then I see if it worked. So I go back to my desktop, I go back to my exposures, and now I open them up. I can just open them up with preview, and I can see what their size is. And now they're 8 by 12 by 100, not 300. That's great. Okay, now I have to play that across all the others. Instead of opening each of them up and playing the action one at a time, I'm going to automate that, right? That's busy work. So all I'll do now is go to File, and I go to, let me remember myself for a minute. Yes, Automate, and then Batch. Because I already have that action selected, and it was the last action I used, it's going to automatically set that as the action. Now I just have to change the source. So I want my source to be whatever folder I want. Or I could even just do opened files. I can only open the files I want to affect. But in this case, I have a folder on the desktop that's exactly what I want. So I'm going to find that folder. And then choose all of the photos in that folder. Even the ones I already did, because it's just going to do the same thing to them. It's not going to shrink them anymore. It's just going to change their resolution down to 100. Okay? Destination, don't worry about that. It's just going to overwrite them in the same place. And then I say OK. And now it does it to all of them while I wait. So what's this is called is batch shrinking. And why is this a good skill to know for photography? It doesn't just help with photocubism processing. If you wanted to put your portfolio of photos onto a website, you don't put your full resolution photos onto a website. They're far too big. Instead, you would batch shrink them just like this, all to a set resolution, a set size. And it's funny, I can actually watch it do it within the folder. Sometimes. It will replace my photos with new ones. This new operating system doesn't have the same conventions old ones did. It used to replace the white border with a floating border when you save something in Photoshop. But we know that they're getting replaced. Now the other problem with this action is it's dangerous. Because this action, if we play it on any photo, it will shrink its resolution down to 100 pixels per inch and resave it before we can stop it. So you want to be aware of that. You can build into your action that you're saving the image as a copy instead of as over the original. All right, this is almost done. I can see my last few photos getting processed. And then I'll show you what we do with those. Okay, so now it's all done. All my photos are in here. Now they're just a lot smaller. So how big is that folder overall? Now it's 77 megabytes. But I'm not sure how much that means. But each photo inside, if I open it up and I check its size, is going to be only 100 pixels per inch, which is exactly what I want. All right, now the next step. And we basically do exactly what we did to photo merge our panoramics, but because our photos don't line up, it's going to do something very interesting for us. So I go to Photoshop, I don't have anything open. I go to Automate Photo Merge, and then the settings I want are collage, but I'm going to uncheck blend images together. And then I browse and I go to that same folder.